Welcome to the Sixth Wheels Consulting Podcast, dialoguing disability and discussing difference, inclusion, and all abilities in today's world. Now here are your hosts, Matthew Shapiro and Bob Nolly.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You have found yourself at episode 7 of the Sixth Wheels Consulting Podcast with my good buddy, Matthew Shapiro. Matthew, how are you?
Hi, I'm great, Bob. How are you? Happy, what is it? Happy day today.
Yeah, happy day, because nobody else knows what day it really is.
That's true. I caught myself.
And, we're not going to talk about the weather, so I'll set that aside. What's going on of note you want to mention?
What's going on of note? Continuing to work on great projects. Just had a really good meeting today with a university, and I might be doing a keynote for them. So I'm pretty excited about that. And
would that not be great? Would that not be great?
And that's the stuff I love doing. I love giving keynotes and sharing messages. So it would work out well. And just make it, been networking like crazy and meeting a lot of great people. So I can't complain. Things are going well.
That's great. Hey, we had a lot of fun last time on episode 6 talking about dating, and I think you gave a good perspective there, and we had some laughs on it too, and it was kind of good. So that's good. But we did have a little teaser there at the end when you mentioned the C word, that being certification, and you have a certification program or project you're working on. Do you want to spill the beans on that tonight?
Yeah, sure. I'm glad to do that. So we're very excited, and some people may have seen on our social media platforms and other avenues like our website that we have recently rolled out the Six Wheels Consulting Certification Program. And so so now we can sort of explain what that is and share that verbally with our audience tonight, and I'm excited to do that.
Okay, so who is getting certified?
Yeah, so the awesome thing is it can really be any sort of business, organization, group that wants to, as I hope our listeners may know by now, one of the things that we do with Six Wheels is our assessments of spaces to make sure that they are inclusive and fully accessible and fully aware of how to be inclusive to the disability population. Well, the way that I've been sort of describing this to people is the certification program is basically an assessment on steroids. We have developed a certification program where, it's a lot like an assessment, but we're actually doing a deeper dive into obviously the physical space of a building or an organization or some sort of entity, but we're also taking a deep dive into has the staff or has the community of that office, have they done disability sensitivity training? Are they representing people with disabilities on their social media platforms or their websites? Are they also represented in, like, when you go into the office, do you get the vibe that it is an inclusive space, a welcoming space, so that all employees or all customers who come in, even those with disabilities, feel welcome in that space?
All right, let's stop right there. Let's clean that right in half. So we talk about facilities, all right? Let's run the gamut. So at one end, we have storefronts on Main Street, USA, in any city, and buildings that have been built back in the 20s or earlier, and people are running their small businesses in there. So is that type of business what your target would be? All the way up to, I'm talking about, tall, 20, 30, 40 more story skyscrapers?
Absolutely. I want, and the goal for this certification would be that any, like, mom and pop shops to your Fortune 500 companies could become certified and set themselves apart from other businesses by doing the things that would make them become more inclusive and more open to the disability population. Because as we've talked about numerous times, something can be ADA compliant but still not be fully user-friendly and accessible to people with all different types of disabilities. So this assessment really tries to, or this certification, more than a regular assessment that I would do, really tries to dive deep into several aspects of how a business or a community building or a community event or whatever could take steps to fully become more inclusive.
Sure, to rectify any issues they have. All right, so of those two ends, I'm not talking about anything in the middle. Those two types of properties that I've described at each end of the spectrum here. You personally, which one do you dread going into more?
Honestly, it's more of the Fortune 500 companies. Not because of them not being accessible, but it's because I often have a harder time connecting to the right people to do the assessment, if that makes sense. So for like a lot of smaller stores and mom and pop stores, you don't have to work through as many layers of, for lack of a better word, like bureaucratic red tape, right? So I can go right to the store owner and say, I want to help you become more inclusive and disability aware so that you can welcome that population of people in who has $220 billion in discretionary spending.
Okay, so right there, I mean, on the sake of the assessment, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes.
From the sake of the physicality of your visit.
Sure.
Which one do you dread going to more?
From a physical standpoint, like, can you elaborate on that for me?
Sure. I mean, the physicality of it, you going, I've got to get into that building. I've got to get there to see somebody.
Sure. So obviously your Fortune 500 companies are more likely to be more accessible than your mom and pop stores. And I think that might be what you were driving at.
Yeah.
And so, yes, in terms of things already being somewhat accessible, obviously not fully accessible to where, which is why they would bring me in to help with that work. It does help when there are larger companies. But like I said, sometimes for the smaller companies, it's easier to get through the door in some senses.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I just was struck this very morning.
Yeah.
I had a breakfast meeting here downtown in the RVA, and the restaurant downtown, had a concrete ramp from both sides for access there. Now, granted, because of the time I've known you, I've become even more sensitized to that issue before. So I walked up the ramp and I stood there before I went in, and it was pouring down rain, so I looked like a fool because I was pausing in the rain to take a look. I looked back down Main Street, and that was the only one I saw.
Yeah.
And there were other places open and available for food now, but they were all in those, those older buildings that you have downtown and, on the other side of the boulevard. It's tough. It's tough to get in.
Yeah. Particularly in downtown locations and locations like down in like Carytown for those of our listeners who
even smaller there. That's even smaller there, I think.
They know what we're talking about. But for those that don't necessarily know, Carytown is it's kind of like a main street, but there are a lot of mom and pop shops that are on Carytown. And oftentimes I use that example as, quite frankly, I love a lot of the shops there, and this is not a knock on any of those shops whatsoever, but a lot of those shops are inaccessible. And so I often don't go down to Carytown as much as I would like because there are often barriers to fully accessing those stores. And for stores like that, this certification program would be a tremendous way to implement things like having a ramp available, like a portable ramp that costs $500 available at your store, and moving your floor plan around in your store so that there's more access for wheelchair users and in people with other mobility impairments. Doing some training and doing some awareness on your websites and in your images that you show in your store. If you're highlighting people, I am more likely as a person with a disability to go into a restaurant, a store, any sort of business if I see somebody that looks like me. If I see somebody that looks like me, I understand immediately, oh, that organization hopefully understands and gets inclusion. So, that's really what we're driving at trying to get the word out about these assessment, about this certification program, and get more businesses and community entities to take us up on the offer.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, now that I cleaved it in half right there, let's go look at the internal side of it in terms of the people and what those businesses represent in all their social media and websites.
Sure. So if you don't mind, I just want to.
No, it's your show, bud. I don't mind at all.
Meaning to throw this in there, but the way that this certification was sort of brought about was there is was a movement, particularly down at Carytown, that is called Out RVA. And so again, for our listeners who live in the RVA area, they know that Out RVA was a movement started to say that our stores and our storefronts are, welcoming to the LGBTQ population. And so when I heard about that and saw that down in Carytown, I immediately started to think, why isn't there something that certifies, that organizations, sorry, that's my phone, that organizations and other things are certified to people with disabilities. Sorry to our listeners, my
that's
phone.
Right. It just sounds like a busy place. That's good.
Yeah,
that's
working
right.
hard. That certification was, we needed a disability certification, and so the idea was sort of born from that. And so the way that, the Out RVA certificate or movement worked is that, storefronts would put a sticker in their window. It was something like the Out RVA sticker. And so passersby would automatically know, okay, this store is friendly to the LGBTQ community. And so I said, let's translate that to the disability community. And so as part of this certification program, people often ask, what does the business get from this situation? We go in and we do the assessment, and, we look at all the areas, and we'll talk about the areas in more detail in just a second. But we go in and we do the assessment. We give the business, a thorough write-up of the findings that we find in the assessment, and then we give them, about 6 months to try and implement some of those strategies, and then we come back and kind of redo the whole assessment over again. If we, as the Six Wheels organization, find that they are doing, or trying to implement some of the strategies that we requested, a business will get a couple of things. They will get a certificate of completion. And again, this doesn't just have to be a business. This can be a community facility. This can be anything. I know I talk about business a lot, but this really can be any aspect in the community. So they get a certificate of completion from Six Wheels. They also get a sticker that, like the Out RVA sticker, we would hope that they would put in their windows. And as we get more recognition through the work that we do, we would hope that people would begin to recognize, particularly people with disabilities would begin to recognize that if they see the sticker in a community window, they know that this organization is Six Wheels Consulting certified, and hopefully they would know what that means. Additionally, they also we will write a press release and we will hopefully promote the business on our social media, obviously, but also in different media outlets. So not only are they doing the right thing as a business, but they're also getting publicity and hopefully more customers or people or foot traffic when into their store.
So in addition to giving them like just a sticker, not just a sticker, because they would have worked hard to earn it, and it means a lot to put on their storefront window or somewhere, could they also take that art and like put it on their website?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. They can promote it in that way. They can, obviously, we would love to develop partnerships with these businesses and have them, if they have a blog for their business, talk about the certification process on their blog, or promote it as a thing that they have accomplished as an organization. Because at the end of the day, we want these businesses and these entities to feel recognized, feel loved, and encourage particularly more people with all different types of disabilities to visit those stores and spend money in those stores, which at the end of the day ends up helping not only that storefront and that business owner, but just helping our economy in general, which I think is a great thing.
So imagine this, perhaps one day we would have certified businesses on as a guest here.
Sure. We would absolutely love that. We're always like you and I always say, we're always want this to be more than a party of two. We always like as many guests to come join us and give their insights as well.
We bought a lot of beer and we have a lot of hors d'oeuvres here, so let's.
Yes, absolutely.
We're ready for anybody. Okay, that's good. So how long has it taken you to? I know you've done the assessment work for a while.
Yeah.
But when did the light bulb go on about the certification?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I got the kind of the groundwork idea from when I learned about the out RVA process, and from there I've really been working for about the last, I'd say year and a half to really work with a partner of mine. She's kind of she helps me with writing and helps me craft things to make sure they sound good. So she and I have been working.
Everybody needs an editor. Everybody needs an editor.
She is a great editor indeed. We've been working for, I want to say, a little over a year, maybe a little bit less, to really get the certification language kind of where we want it. And then I had another partner who was a graphic designer take all of our language and turn it into this pretty packet that we can then present to potential businesses and other people who might be interested when we're doing our pitch meetings or when we're networking with people. We can send them, we can bring them this packet and say, this is another service in addition to the other services that we offer. Here's another opportunity. If you want more than just an assessment, if you want to dive more into detail and look at, again, all aspects of your business from, the physical space to your media presence and your online presence and what your space represents in terms of what it shows, and does it represent disability when you walk into the space, you can do that through this certification program. And now the assessment is still available, but I hope I'm trying to articulate the best I can the differences between my regular just assessment and why this certification program dives a little bit deeper into that, and the customer is getting more from that experience.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense to a lot of our listeners, I'm sure. Whereas the assessment is not an icebreaker, but like it's the start of the relationship.
Sure.
It's like, the free giveaway that you give to get people involved in starting the important conversation of inclusion that we've been talking about for weeks here now.
Sure.
So are you ready to launch? What are the launch details?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're ready to go. We are, the assessment packet and all the information has been posted on our website and on our social media. We've got the packet finished. We've got to get it digitized so that we can put it on our website. But we're ready to go. And if businesses are interested and want to know more about how they can be part of this certification program and what the perks are of being part of the certification program, we are ready, willing, and able. So please, email me at my Six Wheels email address. It's Matthew, MATTHEW .Shapiro, SHAPIRO and then the number 6 and then wheelsconsulting.com. Again, that's Matthew.Shapiro at sixwheelsconsulting.com. You can also find me on Facebook and social media and ask me all about that. I'm on Twitter at 6W Consulting. Again, that's at 6W Consulting, and that's the number 6 on Twitter. So, we're actively looking for businesses, and we'd love to have our first couple businesses jump on board and be interested in getting the assessment for sure.
From day one, we've talked about the topic of inclusion and increasing the sensibility and the activity around this issue. This could go a huge way to broadening your audience and making all the good things happen for the right people.
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately why we did it, and we think that it's a worthwhile venture for businesses to look at this certification. And again, I'm not doing it just I want to recognize businesses who are doing the right things and are willing to take the step to be part of this certification program. And I want to recognize them for seeing the value in bringing in those 56 million Americans that we've talked about on previous episodes and capitalizing on that $220 billion in discretionary income. And I think this is a really unique opportunity to try and do that. And I really encourage businesses. And again, it doesn't just have to be businesses. It can be community areas. It can be really anything in the community who wants to be more inclusive to take part in this certification program, because we think it's a great process.
And they can find out more about this at the 6. That's always the number 6. If you hit the X key, you've done something wrong. 6, the number 6, wheelsconsulting.com. Go there to the website and find out more about the certification. All right, sure. What's the last word today, Matthew?
No, I just always am grateful to our listeners for listening to us every all the time when new content comes out. And again, I just encourage businesses to email me, ask me any questions on social media. Like I said, we're trying to get the information up on the website and our packet up on the website. But the best way right now to learn more about the certification is to hit me up on social media or to email me directly at the email address I just gave. But we really want businesses to try and take part in this process. And you get a lot of good things in return. Like I said, we look at your social media, we look at your actual facility, we look at your website, we look at other things that you can do, and there are other add-ons too that if you think that you want to do a sensitivity training or dive deeper into some other aspects, we can certainly help with that as well. So there's a lot that can be offered in this certification program, and we just hope that community activities and community businesses take us up on this great opportunity.
Well done, sir. All right, that's it, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to episode 7 of the 6 Wheels Consulting podcast. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everybody.